About 2 years ago, I made my first sourdough starter and I made this bread. It was brioche. I was really obsessed with brioche from Trader Joe's at the time, and this was absolutely the best bread I have ever made, but I totally forgot how to make it. So word of advice, if you really like a recipe, write it down, guys. I've made 5 separate attempts of me trying to recreate this on my TikTok, and this video was supposed to be my one. I just knew I had it unlocked, my sourdough starter was ready, I was good to go. Or so I thought. But my son Amari Jr. kind of let me down. You're just gonna have to watch and find out. But it's time we catch up anyway. We hit 400 subscribers. I'm gonna start this recipe off by making Amari Jr. into a small stiff ball. If you ever see me pull out this scale, it's safe to assume that I'm making sourdough of some kind. You can't play when it comes to sourdough. Normally when you make your sourdough stiff, it kind of prevents your bread from having that like sourdough or acidic taste. Some people like it, but for this bread in particular, I just don't really want that. But in any other bread I make, that totally be fine. I'm basing this entire recipe off my last attempt at me making this bread on my TikTok with active dry yeast. I got pretty close with dry yeast, but I'm pretty sure stiff starter is what I really need. Also, if you're new here, I'm Amari, and this is my son Amari Jr. This is my new sourdough starter. My past 3 sourdough starters have all been named Pam. This is my first one to have a boy name, but Amari Jr. is kind of temporary, so if you have a name idea, just let me know. And also, most of the people watching this video aren't subscribed, so like, comment, let me know how I'm doing or something. But most importantly, don't forget to subscribe. I need to go put my laundry in, so I'm gonna go ahead and pre-mix in my milk and my eggs and just go throw everything in really fast. I'm gonna go in with 100 grams of milk and 3 eggs. This is a technique that's normally called auto-leasing, but it's normally just with water, and it's just pre-mixing your liquids some flour and letting it sit for about 15 minutes to strengthen your dough. So if you're ever kind of scared when it comes to making bread, I recommend just doing this. Now, since the last time I uploaded a video, we've almost hit 500 subscribers, which is kind of crazy, and I graduated from college, but still doesn't feel quite real yet. And now that Amari Jr. is about tripled in size, we're gonna go ahead and put all of it in. I'm just gonna put everything straight into the mixing bowl before I put it onto the mixer. My kitchen's pretty hot, so everything seems to be rising kind of fast, so I have faith that this bread's gonna be done before I go to bed, because lately when I've been making bread on my TikTok, I've been getting done at like 1 AM. And if you ever wonder what 140 grams of butter looks like, it's this. So now we're gonna go ahead and start mixing this, but for some reason this is stiffer than what I ever remember. I remember this dough like totally slinging around and me being scared it was gonna fly everywhere and just get everything dirty. But I also know I kind of have a weaker mixer, so I kept stopping it every now and then to kind of push everything down off the hook. Now you always want to make sure that your doughs kind of sort of come together before you put in any butter, because the butter is going to slow down the yeast and make it harder for the gluten to come together. So once I get it into a ball, that's when I kind of start putting in the butter piece by piece. And then boom, my mixer literally started smoking and you can't even see it in this video. I decided I would just finish it by hand, but I'm kind of thankful that it broke. And I say that just because I'm moving and didn't know what I was going to do with it. I'm just going to knead this dough in the bowl with the heel of my hand as best as I possibly can from this position. Just so I can make sure all the butter is all the way in and I can't see any anymore. When it's all incorporated, you'll see that it ends up being a really nice smooth ball. And after I let it sit and rise for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, I roll out my rolling mat. And then I go ahead and get to work on splitting it all up, and I'm gonna split this between 2 loaves. This is also where I messed up partially. This isn't enough dough to split between 2 separate Pullman pans. I should have left it all together in one pan and just did 6 pieces. And this was also the first place I noticed something was kind of off. There was a really weird smell coming from this dough and I thought the coloring was kind of off. But I don't know if that's just me overreacting or what. I was so confident that this bread was going to come out perfectly, I literally was pulling out all the stops. I wanted to be as precise as humanly possible. Because normally when I'm making stuff on here, I kind of just go willy-nilly. From this point forward, everything is fairly simple. I'm just going to start rolling these into like as evenly sized balls as I possibly can and putting them into my pan because we want them to rise before we bake them. But I'm not just going to roll them and put them in. I'm going to roll those even balls out and then roll them into logs that will be going in the pan. And this is the most even I've ever gotten those logs. I'm so thankful for all 400 of you, and I'm really excited to see what kind of stuff I make over the next few months because I'm having a really big move I'm probably going to make a video about because it seems really random. But just know I'm temporarily leaving New York City. Now, generally speaking, when my bread rises, I want it to fill up to 90% of the pan before I bake it, or between 75 and 90, but that just wasn't happening, so I went ahead and baked it. I split these too thin because I just knew it was going to be so good I was making one for my friend too. And now it's time for the grand reveal. I made this bread in a test run and I had so much faith everything was going to be good and it sounded fine. But now I really want you to see this crumb. This wasn't the exact crumb that I wanted, but also it was weird that this bread was so hard. I was going more so for this, but this is also fine. I forgot to discard after I did this in the test run, and it absolutely tasted like an armpit. This was my actual reaction at 5 in the morning. But in the end, that bread was kind of a flop. But I'm just gonna try again next weekend. But anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe and watch my other videos. I don't really post bread baking videos very often anymore. I normally do more so like meals and cooking kind of things. But honestly, maybe we'll make more bread. Who knows?